Oregon changes to pretrial release for persons accused of felonies and Class A misdemeanors initiative. The initiative would prohibit persons accused of felonies or Class A misdemeanors from being released prior to their first court appearance. Remove limits on bail amount. Bail reform as well. That's also good. Change the criteria used to determine release. Good. And require the state to cover county pretrial incarceration costs. Crimefighting Act. The people of Oregon hereby adopt the following statute to be known as the Oregon Crimefighting Act. This act has 3 principal objectives: end, catch, and release. That's literally the first major step. That's key that we desperately need. Because then this woman who assaulted my mom and broke her arm clean through would not have been released.
Yeah.
At all. She wouldn't have been caught and released.
Yeah, exactly.
Despite the fact that it was a felony. Because it was intent to cause great bodily harm, and she did. And again, she has a horrific track record, including an escalation, where it's literally, it's not an exaggeration to say it's as long as Long Island rap sheet. It's fucking ridiculous. And a lot of that includes bail jumping and skirting court dates and trials that she's supposed to be attending. So she just disappears because they keep releasing her and she never shows up. And then they had to go hunt her down and fucking find her. And so this ends that if you can fucking keep them in jail.
Exactly.
And held. The thing is, though, I will admit, there is a problem with this, and that is that Oregon's jails are actually overloaded to hell and back.
They are.
I don't know if you heard about it, but when, I guess technically my mom's neighbor, because they're in the same complex, you live a handful of blocks away, but
Exactly.
Mike,
yeah.
Mike and Trish's Mike.
Yes.
Remember when shortly after Mom got out of the hospital for a broken arm and her assault, that he got arrested, right?
Yeah.
Did he tell you the story about how it was so fucking jam-packed and crowded in the fucking Washington County jail?
No, he didn't.
Yeah, so the holding room was so fucking overfilled that people were literally on top of each other, to the extent that it caused a lot of fights, and he was one of the people who got in a fight while there. And so he decked somebody because he was getting way too close and basically harassing him and being a prick. And
what the hell?
So
man?
he decked him, and then that was another charge he got because you're not allowed to do that no matter what. Oh, fuck you. So,
dude.
But anyway, the point is that it was so overcrowded that like people were literally tripping over each other and hitting each other and stuff. Sometimes most of them were unintentionally doing it, and they were pissing each other off because of it. Because there's no room.
There's literally no room.
And now this would make it like doubled up, and that's a lot worse. So there is trade-offs there, and unfortunately there's a really negative trade-off to it, because you need more capacity. Because there's that many fucking idiots that live in this state, apparently.
No kidding!
You know?
This also brings to question, what about the whole mental health epidemic?
Right, because a lot of, especially in Oregon, I know it's true across most of the country, actually, is that when somebody's very mentally ill and they're having a clear crisis, or they're having an addiction psychosis, the police will originally attempt to take them to a psych ward or a behavioral health center. Usually it's a psych ward in a hospital, and it's a normal hospital therefore. The issue is nobody there is qualified to handle people like that, and then they're also overfilled. They don't have the equipment they need, and so they just turn them away. And so they have to either just put them back on the street, just immediately be called back out and pick them back up again, or eventually they have to therefore take him to jail.
Well, man, I mean...
Because what the fuck else is it supposed to do?
Well, the thought process comes to mind is that those holding cells in that regard, just like what you pointed out, what if someone has a mental health crisis?
I know.
In that regard.
I know, that's what you're pointing out, too.
Yeah, and if this passes and stuff, what's going to happen? More people are going to be housed in prisons and stuff.
In jails. Well, mainly jails.
Yes.
This is still a positive, net positive, I think. The issue is, at that point, that just furthers the problems that they need to solve about completely tearing down and rebuilding the fucking mental health system, at least starting at a grassroots state and community level here. And that has to include addiction treatment, which does not fucking exist in this country at all, really. So... And that means no more Measure 110s. If you're actually going to fucking help addicts, you know, and get over their addictions, you cannot fucking do 110 again. You have to actually do it correctly. Section 1. For purposes of this Part A of this Act, A. Serious crime means any felony, any Class A misdemeanor charged in circuit court. B. Pretrial release means a release of a criminal defendant from incarceration, usually jail, before trial. C. Arraignment means an appearance in front of a circuit court judge, either in person or by electronic means such as video. Section 2. Each criminal defendant charged with a serious crime shall not be eligible for pretrial release from incarceration until the criminal defendant is presented for arraignment.
Yeah.
Section 3. When a criminal defendant charged with a serious crime appears at the arraignment, the circuit court judge presiding at the arraignment shall review the criminal defendant's criminal record and the charges pending against the criminal defendant, and the judge shall decide whether the criminal defendant shall be released from incarceration pending trial. In making this decision, the judge shall consider A. Rights established in the Constitution of the United States of America. B. Rights established in the Constitution of Oregon. These include, but are not limited to, the provisions of Article 1, Section 43 of the Oregon Constitution, which provide the right of a crime victim to be reasonably protected from the criminal defendant throughout the criminal justice process. Boy, you're definitely going to need to listen to and watch episode 3, because boy, do I have a story to tell you about that.
Okay, dude.
Fucking on both sides of the fence, actually. Throughout the criminal justice process, and the right of the public and the victim to have decisions regarding the pretrial release of a criminal defendant based upon the principle of reasonable protection of the victim and the public, as well as the likelihood that the criminal defendant will appear for trial. So again, this is great, a great step in the right direction, because I cannot recommend again enough that you listen to and you watch episode 3. But I talk at length about both sides of the fence, because I've experienced both sides of the fence as a potential juror, and also therefore a indirect victim of my mom's assault.
Yeah.
I've experienced both of these very deeply, and so of exactly what B here is saying on Section 3. So, like, I can give you the legitimate perspective of exactly how it really functions currently and how bad it is, and how much, if you're a victim, you're fucked. If you're apparently a criminal, even if you're convicted of premeditated murder, you get to be a free man and get the most representation in the world. You get to be a free person, and you get to wear whatever you want, and you don't get any extra security, and you get to sit in on your own jury selection for your own murder trial, because, you know, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just as a summary, so quite literally, whereas if you're a victim, you're fucked. You probably won't even get a day in court. And if you do, to give your impact statement, you'll get maybe 50 seconds, if you're lucky. Congratulations. Have fun. It's infuriatingly stupid. So this is a great step in the right direction. It suggests that they know that this is a fucking problem that's going on, even if they won't outright admit it verbally. Because obviously that would be really fucked up if they did that,
no
in terms of fucked up on their own reputation, as if it's not already down the fucking drain.
Well, no kidding.
Again, in that vein, as an overall perspective, listen to and watch episode 3. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we're just saying.
If you really want an insider look from a born and raised multi-generational Oregonian of the real true state of Oregon, and the state of Oregon, that is, listen to it. Trust me. You're going to want it. It's going to give you all sorts of shit and insight. Anyway, C. The seriousness of the criminal defendant's criminal record and the seriousness of the new charges against the criminal defendant. The defendant's criminal record shall include all arrests and convictions and all citations in lieu of arrest in Oregon. The criminal record shall also include, to the extent practicable, all arrests and convictions outside of Oregon. Section 4. The circuit court judge is empowered to establish security as to the appearance of the criminal defendant for trial, without restrictions previously imposed by a statute, as to any serious crimes. Part B. Allow local governments to better protect public safety, quote unquote. Section 1. Notwithstanding any other provision of state law, local governments have the power to criminally prohibit or restrict the following: public intoxication as to alcohol or drugs, public drinking of alcohol, public use of any drug which is illegal under federal law, disorderly conduct and trespassing criminal or on public property. I have a lot of thoughts about that. Not a lot of positive ones. Like the drugs aspect, it's more concerns about, again, the lack of addiction care and treatment.
Yeah.
Because then they're just exacerbating potentially the problem. Where if they implement that, now they have to just take them to a fucking holding cell or jail.
No kidding.
They're not equipped for that either. They don't have no experience with that. That's stupid. I mean, it depends on what drugs too, because if it's like meth or like PCP or something, I mean, the aggression that these people have and the malicious intentions, the sadistic nature that they take on in their head is really fucked up. So like, even more so with withdrawals. So I mean, like, that just doesn't make any sense. Now you just have addicts piled in there with all the mentally ill and everyone else too. Great idea.
Trespassing on public property. What?
Yeah, that one's fine. That one makes, well, actually no, on public property. If it's public, you can't trespass. I suppose technically the idea is that it would be like courthouses and police stations and stuff like that, because they're technically public property, or libraries. They're technically public property, but also if you like harass people a bunch, or you get into fights,
Well,
or
my thought process is
you act
who
like an
decides
asshat,
that?
and then, you know.
Well, my thought process is who decides that sort of stuff. What if, say, for instance, you're walking to an appointment and you
Right.
happen to cross through a parking lot or something?
No, that wouldn't count. I'm assuming that wouldn't count.
Okay.
It depends on how open-ended and broad this trespassing on public property is. If it's not defined and it's just that, then it's ambiguous and it can include literally anything.
Yeah, no kidding.
Which then at that point is, it makes a huge constitutional issue as well, because it's public fucking property. So, like, because then it could include parks or whatever else. And it's like, that's a
Okay.
fucking issue, because
Yeah,
that's
no
not,
kidding.
that shouldn't be legally allowed, because that violates a lot of different amendments in the constitution of the country. But like, that's kind of my thoughts partially about the alcohol thing, because
Okay.
and also the disorderly conduct thing, because Oregon City, and I told you about this before, I never edited or put up the video, and I should have, but Oregon City implemented, so they did this, Oregon City was allowed to do this before this was even a thing, which is weird, because this indicates, this legislation for the state would indicate, you know, it would indicate that this wasn't legally allowed for a municipality,
Yeah.
a local government, to make that kind of law or distinction or decision before. Because it was covered by the state statutes in the state. Well, Oregon City did it, and they were allowed to do it. Why were they allowed to do it if this isn't even implemented yet?
No kidding.
Because it hasn't been voted on. That doesn't make any sense. So that's a contradiction. That's a fucking issue. And that makes me hate that thing even more in Oregon City. But the whole idea of like, oh, hey, this person's fucking drunk, and so now we can charge them with public intoxication
This.
and a public nuisance, aka disorderly conduct, because they're drunk and slurring their speech and making advances or stumbling around or peeing themselves in public or yelling slurs or something like that because they're fucking out of their head drunk, you know? And it's like, I have so many issues with that, especially considering it was like the main downtown of Oregon City, their CBD, commercial business district. And it's like, so where do you expect them to go, especially if they're fucking residents? Because they're not legally allowed to go through there for 30 days, I think it was, or whatever, if you give them a trespass or something like that. Between certain hours. And it's also certain hours. It's like weirdly discriminatory. And it's like, I'm fucking sorry? Also, where do you think most of your fucking main street bars are? That probably got them drunk.
Yeah.
Oh, right. In your fucking downtown CBD. So now you want to get mad at the people and exclude them from the area if they get drunk at your own fucking bar? Fuck you.
Exactly.
You know, like, there's so much wrong with that, and I might eventually get to editing that. I might do that. But yeah, so like, there's just a lot of issues with that to me, you know?
No kidding, man. It's horrible.
It's like, and technically, it's, as much as it's stupid, it is your right to fucking get drunk. If they're genuinely harassing somebody, won't leave them alone, you know, then yeah, you can charge them for that. But you should have the presence of mind and the cognizance to understand they're fucking intoxicated, and they probably aren't going to normally act like that unless they are that way. And so then you should figure out how to fucking talk to people who are drunk, especially if they're a frequent flyer with your police department, and know you learn how to talk to these people, and then be like, hey, let's get you home. You know, like let's get you out of here. Like this isn't worth what it's gonna result in if you don't curb your enthusiasm, so to speak. I don't know. There's a lot you could talk about with that, but yeah, the trespassing on public property, I'd arguably have the most problem with, because again, it's so, if they don't define that specifically, it's going to be wide open ended and so ambiguous that they can legally deem anything, any public property of any kind,
Exactly.
and do anything with trespassing there. And it's like, it's a public property. That person, like anybody else who's a taxpayer, is paying for that to remain public. That's what makes it public. Taxpayers fucking fund its existence. So that's not okay, you know, like, especially if it's an open air area, like a park or a marketplace or something, you know, then it's like, you can't do that. That shouldn't be legally allowed, because then you're violating a lot of amendments in the Constitution. That's not right. You're violating so many rights at that point. So yeah, they could be, you could still charge them with fucking harassment and disorderly conduct or whatever else, public indecency, whatever it might be. Fine, that's okay. You can do that instead. And then if you want people that are in the public that might have been harassed or whatever, if they want an order of protection or a restraining order against the person, and the police correctly document everything, because we all know that they, a lot of times, especially around here, they won't fucking document anything. Apparently including felony assaults. And the evidence around it. You know, if they properly document it and file it, then there's you have the opportunity to be able to actually give those people that order as well. Whether it's an order of protection or it's a restraining order, because again, they're two different things. It's normally going to be a restraining order at that point, though, because it's public and it's not a family member. It's usually only family members or co-workers or something like that you have to, a person you consistently are running into or dealing with, that you can get orders of protection against. But either way, you know, so in that vein, you know, that's how that should be, but you shouldn't be able to trespass somebody from a public property like a fucking park.
All right, good.
That's just ridiculous. Charge them with whatever they're doing that is a crime. Don't charge them with fucking trespass, because then you're really getting into not even really a gray area. It's a true red violation zone where you're violating a lot of constitutional rights.
Exactly.
Which are very pivotal to uphold. So even though obviously the federal government keeps thwarting and subverting the Constitution and amendments all the fucking time, but even though it's supposed to be unalienable.
Yeah.
As in not unalterable. You cannot alter this, you cannot change it, you cannot take it away. But they do it all the time anyway, because of course they're going to treat it like a fucking suggestion. Section 2. The powers listed in Section 1 of Part B are in addition to any power which may be held by a local unit or unit of local government. Part C. Ensure sufficient jail space and funding for each jail. Well, that's going to be a doozy because of what we mentioned earlier about how just overloaded all of them already are.
Yeah.
And now you want to throw this many, like twice as many people potentially you're going to be thrown in there with this passing. And it should pass. But you got to fucking accommodate for everything else that's going to, the domino effects that are going to happen as a result of it.
Exactly.
Including that. So like this is theoretically covering it. The issue is, do you know how fucking many billions of dollars it's going to probably cost?
Mm-hmm.
And Oregon is not a kind of place that most voters are going to ever support adding more jails and more capacity to jails because they don't like the incarceration system. So considering most of it is actually very profitable. It's profit driven. So, and somewhat discriminatory. So that is stupid as well. So you're going to have loggerhead issues there. So like in reading this out, because again, most people won't. For those that hear this, they might think at first, like, okay, this sounds overall like this is actually probably pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe we could put it off to the next election cycle so that way we can, next November instead of this coming November. So November 2027, so that way we can actually amend it to be much clearer in language, because clearly they already just bypassed Part B of Section section 1 of part B here, which is the trespassing on public property is especially problematic because if they aren't going to ever address the criteria for that, that's so open-ended, like we said, that's a problem. So, like, amendments clearly need to be made to this. So, odds are, this is, at its basis, this is a fantastic idea, and we do need things like this. The issue is there's too many ambiguity issues. We need to clearly and concisely define each of these things so that it's not open-ended, and it's not confusing or able to be misinterpreted by governments or voters.
Amen.
Or residents or so on, or prosecutors, right? So defer it to 2027 and let's amend it in the meantime is probably what should happen, especially considering you get to part C and then people are just going to reject it instead. If they don't realize they need to amend it instead, it's better as amending, because by default, this is a no-go when you add this part. Well, I get it. There is clearly more capacity needed. Even if you had the perfect mental health and addiction treatment and care systems and facilities across the entire state, and it was more than enough capacity.
Yeah.
I guarantee they still would need more jail space
Absolutely.
for all the rest of the idiots that are out there.
Absolutely.
Because it's already overfilled now, and even if you take all of them away, when you're doubling up otherwise, you're just doubling up, basically.
Yeah.
So you still need more capacity. Although I would prioritize hospital capacity and healthcare capacity over jail capacity first, but
Exactly.
still. Ironically, I say that, but then I have a twinge in me that's like, well, I don't like that at the same time because of, again, what happened with my mom.
Yeah.
Because both need to happen desperately.
Well, no kidding. No kidding.
Equally, I would say. Important. So yeah, section 1. The state shall reimburse each county for the costs of pre-trial incarceration of all persons charged with felonies or Class A misdemeanors. So the unclassified one, I remember hearing that. So the unclassified misdemeanors would be D.
Okay.
Then. Because they officially called it a Class D misdemeanor, is what is listed as for my mom's assault, which is, again, super stupid. But I also looked up the felonies thing, I think, or that I was reading about the misdemeanor levels. Assault in the 4th degree, that's what it was. Oh, sorry, it was assault in the 4th degree.
Okay.
Yeah. Assault in the 4th degree is a criminal offense defined under Oregon Statute 163.160, where a person intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly causes physical injury to another, or causes physical injury through criminal negligence using a deadly weapon. It is generally classified as a Class A misdemeanor. So it's still considered a misdemeanor, though, which is, again, offensive, because it's like, it's literally a fucking assault with a deadly weapon. They literally say deadly weapon, even, is included in that, and it's still a misdemeanor? Wow. Like, fuck you. Punishable by up to 364 days in jail, 1 day less than a year, because why not be arbitrary about it? And a fine of up to $6,250. However, the charge escalates to a Class C felony with potential prison time and fines of up to $125,000 if specific aggravating factors are included. The assault is committed in the immediate presence or witnessed of by a minor. The defendant has a prior conviction for assault, strangulation, or menacing against the same victim. I hate how it has to be the same victim. That's also kind of insulting to me. The defendant has at least 3 prior convictions for assaults, so they need 3 otherwise. If for assault, strangulation, or menacing, you have to strangle somebody 3 fucking times before they'll consider it a felony offense.
Wow.
In Oregon. Like, how incredibly fucked up and regressive is that? They're basically like, yeah, you can strangle people as much as you want. Fuck it. We don't care. Break their arms as much as you want. It's fine. And then pregnancy. So minors and pregnancy. So basically it's children related no matter what. 80% of the time. And then the remaining time is you have to do it 3 different times, or it has to be done once before to the same person. Wow. How stupid is that? So here's the thing, though. I'm pretty sure she had 2 assaults beforehand. The issue is that because she keeps fucking skipping court, she's never been tried or charged on those things. They're just still pending fucking charges along with the rest of the laundry list of charges she has pending because she just has, like, all 3 counties, Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas, we're going to just say, fuck it, we're going to get her into the court one time, and it's going to be for all of her charges collectively across all 3 counties, which is, again, like, as long as fucking Manhattan or Long Island.
Exactly.
Again, not a true exaggeration. It sounds like it, but it's truly not. She has such a stupid rap sheet. And they're just said, that's how exasperated they are. And they're just like, fuck it, we're going to put it together. As far as we know, that trial's never fucking happened, by the way. So they're all still pending, as far as we know. It's fucking stupid. And again, she keeps escalating, so this is a part of this, where I'm pretty sure, therefore, it should have automatically been a Class C felony.
Wow.
Assault. This should not be the criteria. That's way too fucking restrictive and regressive.
No kidding.
But, you know, she would fit it by this 3rd criterion there for a Class C felony. They won't charge her with it. They still only want to charge her with a fucking Class A misdemeanor. So stupid. So this is still a fucking problem.
No
to
kidding.
be honest. But anyway. So yeah, the reimbursement shall cover the costs of incarceration for each day that a person charged with a felony or Class A misdemeanor is in the custody of the supervisory authority of the county from the date of the person's arrest until the resolution of the criminal charge. So in other words, this sounds like, again, it's pretty clear now that they're defining it as instead of catch and release, they will literally hold them until they are charged.
Yeah.
Or the charges are dismissed, and whichever comes first, basically. So basically conviction or dismissal. Section 2. Every month, the county shall submit to the Oregon Department of Corrections a written request for reimbursement for the cost of incarcerating persons described in Section 1 of this Part C. Section 3. The Department of Corrections shall reimburse a county that submits a request under Section 2 of this Part C within 30 days of receiving a request. The reimbursement shall occur at the rate of $145 per person per day of incarceration, or the actual daily cost of incarcerating a person, whichever is higher. Section 4. If the Department of Corrections determines that the reimbursement request by a county under Part C is excessive, the issue shall be immediately submitted for consideration and resolution by the circuit court of that county. Huh? So wait, so the county has to submit the request to the state to have them cover the cost. But if the state disputes it and says it's excessive, aka they don't believe them, that it costs that much, then it goes to the county's own courts to be determined if it's actually excessive or not. What? So, in other words, probably odds are is that the county circuit court is going to immediately side with themselves and say, it's not excessive. Give us the money. Obviously.
Obviously.
What? Hello? What? Shouldn't it go to, like, a third-party adjudicator? That's fucking ridiculous. Because then you avoid the fucking bias issue. That's... Yeah, third-party adjudication is what it should be. Whether it's a civilian commission, you know, for accountability or whatever else, that's how it should be. That's fucking stupid. What in the absolute fuck? What? That doesn't make any sense. That's so stupid. That is... My face immediately tells you how fucking confounding that is. Like, as soon as I finish reading it, I'm like... What? Sorry? Have you been hit one too many times in the head with a fucking rock? Like...
McFly! Hello?
Anyone home?
Anyone home?
God damn. Section 5. If any county jail exceeds 90% of its capacity for 30 days or more, as in 100% of the time for most of the jails in the entire state, which is already well over 90% because they're well over 100% capacity. That's the fucking problem. They literally are probably over 200% capacity at Washington County Jail consistently right now.
Yeah.
Like that's... So, hello? The supervisory authority for the county shall report this to the Department of Corrections, which shall provide incarceration facilities staffed by the Department of Corrections personnel to house inmates from that county at state expense. Okay, what kind of facilities? It's not like you just have randomly extra facilities laying around.
No, you don't.
That's why earlier in this, you already said that you need to build more facilities because there's not enough capacity. So does that mean they're going to put them into basically concentration camps? Are they just going to build fucking like prison camps and just be like, well, you got to be held here until we have space in the fucking actual jail?
Dude, I bet you anything that this is part of the reasoning
Holy
by which
shit.
they want more land as well.
Part of it, probably, yeah. I mean, this would favor the fucking federal government a lot.
Yes.
Even though they have never used their fucking FEMA camps that they built, which are literally
Okay.
concentration camps in the first place, or prison complexes, if you will, which is ironic. But they would love to have more for obvious reasons.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, that's an immediate concern for me because that doesn't make any fucking sense. This shall continue the supervisory authority. Oh, sorry, until the supervisory authority confirms that the capacity problem has been resolved. Section 6. None of the reimbursement or housing of inmates provisions of Part C of this Act may be set off by any other funding obligations of the state to any county. Part D. The Oregon Crimefighting Act supersedes all inconsistent provisions of Oregon law. Well, then just get rid of those inconsistencies. Why would you keep them and just become obsolete like that? That doesn't... What? Or again, re-amend them to then make them no longer redundant or inconsistent. Part E. This act is effective upon passage. The provisions of this act apply to crimes committed on or after January 1st of next year, 2027.